Alright, so you don't want to create a different instance of the entities class for each controller in the system. You want to store both passenger and flight states in a single database. Besides, you may need to change the constructor parameters of the entities class later on. There are also other reasons for not instantiating services in controllers, but they are outside from the scope of this course. So let's see how to inject the entities class into the application services as a singleton to share a single instance across all controllers. Inside of your project, open up program.cs. This is the file that you need to configure your ASP.NET Core application. Also, you can see that right here. Here you can create and add services to the container. So let's say you can add services to your application here. Just before you build that application, using builder.build, you are able to add the services directly here. So let's do that. Just before we build the application, we're gonna go ahead and say builder.services.addSingleton. So one instance of the class gets shared between all controllers. That's what addSingleton is doing. And now we need our namespace. So let's go to the very top and add using flights.data. There we go. And now we go ahead to builder services addSingleton, and the type is entities. Right, so this will add a singleton of type entity, so just an instance of the entities class, to the dependency injection, let's call it ecosystem, right? So now we are able to grab the entity singleton inside of the controllers to use it instead of creating a new instance every time inside of a controller, right? That doesn't make sense, because just imagine that entities is just like your database, right? Just imagine it like that. So you don't want to have many databases, right? You want to have one database instead. So we create one instance of that database, let's call it like this, and it's getting shared between all the controllers. Great. So this is the first step. You register it into the ecosystem or DI system. Now, after registering it, we can now inject it. So let's switch over into the flight controller first of all. Now you register those services that you register in the program.cs directly, or you can inject them directly by using the constructor. So inside here we got that constructor in the flight controller, right? Flight controller. It's just taking here a logger instance. And we go ahead and extend that, and the only thing we have to do is really to go into the constructor, add a new parameter right here, so something that we receive here, and we receive a new, let me just make a line break, entities object. We can call it entities. And this object you provided will be the instance from the dependency injection that we have registered here as a singleton, right? So we take that instance, it's getting provided in the constructor. We can now take it here from the parameter and assign this value, right? That one is coming from the DI. We can assign it to the entities field right here. So we go ahead and say entities is equals to entities. So in order to make that working, we for sure go ahead and remove that static now. Awesome. Private, read-only static. Now, since it's private and read-only, it should be lowercase now. So go ahead, right-click, and call it entities. You can see that we have a conflict here, right? So it's exactly the same name, this entities. It's for sure referencing that one, assigned to the value from the dependency injection from the constructor here, entities. And this is why you often see that private read-only fields, right, referencing that one, written in lowercase, like entities, for example. So you can make a difference. That one is inside of the class, and that one got provided from the dependency injection. That makes this keyword here completely useless. You can see that the logger here is doing that too, right? So awesome. Let's stick with that naming convention. And the great thing about this, since we renamed it, it's everywhere referenced exactly like this. So entities with an underscore, and then flights. So everything is working fine inside here. Awesome. So copy it, go to the passenger controller, paste it, or just replace the line of code. So we again remove static and just make it in lowercase with an underscore. Exactly the same thing as in the flight controller. But here we don't have a constructor. So let's go ahead and create one. Write down ctor, press tab, which will just fold out a constructor for you. Let's go ahead, we take entities from the dependency injection, that's the instance, and assign it So let's say the field entities with an underscore is the value of the entities object provided from DI. Awesome. Now let's take that entities here and replace the entities class here with that instance in our controller. Awesome. So definitely don't forget that instead of the passengers, now make use of the entities field with that underscore, because that's the value from the dependency injection. If you are not confident right now, go ahead and take a look at the GitHub repository to check if everything is right for you. Great. So one more thing we need to remove at both controllers is that we don't need to create an instance anymore, right? So here we have new, but in the moment where the passenger controller would get created, we automatically provide the entities instance from the dependency injection. So instead of creating a new one here, we can simply get rid of it, because it will, however, after initialization or during initialization, will take the value from the constructor. Awesome. So in both controllers, remove the new entities instantiation here. Great. So the value from entities will only come now from the constructor. Great. So again, start the application and check if everything is still running. So I already registered. Let's search for a flight. Let's click on book. Let's book one seat and it still works. That's awesome. Take a look at the console. You will see that we were able to log in after registration and then booking a flight. Perfect. So definitely don't forget, every time you make changes to your application, which could impact, well, the functionality, go ahead and check afterwards if everything is still working fine. Awesome. So we assigned the responsibility of creation of the entities class to .NET Dependency Injections library. We added the entities class to the service collection as a singleton, so that every time any controller wants to be instantiated, the same instance is passed to its constructor as a parameter.